Hi everyone, let's continue with our topic today, which is topic 8, repetition structure. Alright, so repetition structure is basically a VBA loop, a process that will repeat until the specific criteria are met here. Alright, and this criteria is basically depends on the type of loop we used. It will begins with a specific statement describing what type of loop it is and will end with an ending statement that is based on the type of the loop. Alright. So in other words, we can say that this type of loop dictates the beginning and ending of the statements. Alright. And then the process to repeat will be contained in these two statements, meaning you have the beginning and you have the ending statement here. So this loop can also contain more loops inside themselves or several separate loops. In other words, we can say that there is a loop in another loop. All right. Okay, now there are three types of repetition structure, which is the for next loop, the do until loop, and the do while loop. For today lecture series, we are only going to cover the for next loop. So the second section of the lecture series, we are going to cover the do until loop and the do while loop over here. Okay. So the user needs to perform 3 additional steps manually when you're using your repetition structure. So the first one is for you to declare a counter variable. This is only applicable when you use the do loop over here, the do until loop and the do while loop. Okay, for the for next loop, it's not applicable at all. All right, so once you've already done with the first step, then the second step over here, you need to initialize or store an initial value in the counter variable. Then after that, you can increase the counter variable by 1 or any integer every time the loop runs. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So it is best used when the user knows exactly how many times the loop process needs to repeat. And the criteria set in the loop for next loop automatically creates a counter variable and it will add 1 to the loop until the counter reaches the last value. And basically that's all regarding on the theoretical part of the repetition structure. Now we are going to look onto the syntax. So the syntax for the for next loop is quite easy. You just need to have for and you need to name your variable, the starting number and the ending number over here. Then after that, you need to include your process syntax once you have your opening for the for next loop. Therefore, you need to have closure for your for next loop. So closure will be next variable name. Again, the one in brown orange color do not change, maintain as it is. The only thing that you can change is only the black color of the sentences. All right. Okay, so this is the flows for the for next loop. First thing first, what you need to do is you need to make a variable named counterVar. So once the counterVar is equivalent to counterVar equivalent to 0, then this counterVar will automatically add 1 of it. All right, and then after that, it will process doing something over here. So this is where your process syntax will work. Okay, so once it's already done something, give out the results. Then after that, we can ask question, is the counterVar equivalent to your end? The end part over here is basically your ending number. If it is equivalent to your ending number, yes, equivalent, yes. Therefore, it will stop the loop. And if it is not equivalent to your ending number, then the process keeps on continue looping and looping until it reaches to your ending number. So that's how the process looks like. Okay, so let's create one simple example by using this syntax. So hold on, let me erase this one. Okay, now let's say, for example, you have a column A over here, and you want to display a number from 1 to 2, all right? Meaning that you want to display A, row 1, row 2, row 3, and you want to display number 1, number 2, number 3 in column A. So how does this work actually? Okay, So for starting, if you want to create this looping structure, what you need to do is you need to use your for next loop. Okay, so therefore you need to write the syntax, the opening syntax. So the opening syntax is basically for over here. And then you need to name your variables over here. So let's assume I name the variables over here as my I. Okay, so my I must be equivalent to my starting number. So what is my starting number? Since I want to display my number 1, therefore this is my starting number 1. Okay, to my ending number. So I need to write in again 2. And then my ending number, since I want to display up until the third number, that's why this one my ending number will become 3. Okay, so for I equivalent to 1 to 3, and then I need to display my output in column A. So I would say sheet 1 dot cells. Okay, so different types of row over here. So I have my row, so I can put my row as 1, and my column is fixed, which is A equivalent to 1. And I want to display my output, so this one will become 1, and then, sorry, I, and then after that, I will have next I over here. Okay, let's try and look on how this process will do. So for beginning, we will say that the I is equivalent to 1. So sheet 1 dot cells, I is equivalent to 1, comma 1, whereby your I is 3. So therefore, we can say that your A1 over here is equivalent to 1. Alright? And then it will go to the next I. So the loop continue the first sentences over here. So the next sentence over here, the next I. So after number 1 is basically number 2. So your I is equivalent to 2. So the number 1 over here will change to 2 and the I over here will change to 2. So therefore you will have A2 equivalent to 2 over here. Then the next one, we will process the next I, which is the last number. So the last number over here, process to the beginning of the next looping, I equivalent to 3. So this is your ending number. So when your I equivalent to 3, therefore number 2 change to 3, this one change to 3, you will have A3 equivalent to 3. And it will go on to the next I over here. So let's say, for example, the next I over here, we say your I equivalent to 4. So the I is not matching with your ending number over here. Alright, it's not equivalent to your ending number. Therefore, the process will stop. It will automatically stop here. Alright, because the I is not equivalent to your ending number. Alright, so same goes to this one. Is the I equivalent to your 3? So since the I equivalent to 3, yes, it will stop your looping over here. Alright, and if your I is not equivalent to 3, therefore it will continue the process until it reaches to the number 3 here. Okay, so that's it regarding on the lecture series. So I think now we can proceed with the practical part. So hold on, let me switch screens over here. Give me 15 seconds. Hold on here. Okay. Okay, all right. So let's say, for example, let's do one simple example over here. Okay, let's say in column B, I want to display my company's name. So I have a lot of companies. Sometimes you will have something like this, company 1, and then you will have company 2, and you will have company 3. Sometimes you will write it one by one over here, okay? But what we can do over here is, it's not basically you can write it one by one. You can just click over here and drag, and it will recognize your pattern. So this is also one type of looping, repetition structure inside your Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. This is why we call it as your click and drag, whereby the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet can recognize the pattern. So we want to replicate this column B inside your column D. Okay, we want to replicate. So let's do this one in column D. So again, since you have already learned command button, better to use command button for easier executions. Okay, so I have already created command button and then double click over here. Okay, so now let me delete this one. All right, okay. So close again, command button. All right, so you will have your opening syntax, which is private sub command button underscore click. Once you have your opening syntax, then after that you can have your closing syntax over here. So closing syntax. All right. Then you need to declare all your variables. So declare and determine the variables. Okay, so this is include your input, process, and your output. So let's declare dim. Can we say dim I as integer? So this is where your I is actually your process. Okay, it appears inside your process. Okay, process variables. I is your process variables. Then after that, you need to extract informations from user. Okay, now this one as usual, we can use the input box. So what information actually we want to extract over here? What we can do is we can say that we can try to create J over here. J is not J, and equivalent to input box. How many companies are there? Okay. All right, question mark, double quotation, and close. So therefore, dim I, do not forget you have your and as your input variables. So we have I and n as your integer. Then after that, we can use the process syntax, which is your for next loop. Okay, so we can have your opening of your for next loop for. So your process is your I, starting number should be 1 over here. 1, 2, and because you don't know how many companies are there that you need to display inside your Excel spreadsheet. Okay, then after that, we can say that sheet 1, is it sheet 1? Go check. Okay, yeah, sheet 1. All right, sheet 1 dot cells. So the row is different, therefore this one is going to be your I, and your column you want to display in column D, which is A1, B2, C3, D4. Okay, so D4, and then close bracket equivalent to your double quotations company. Okay, and then what we can do is we can space double quotation, combine letter, and I over here. All right. Okay, and then after that, we can close your looping next I. So one complete code over here from opening syntax to your closing syntax. Therefore, we can run this coding by using your command button. So deselect your design mode. Okay, and then click your command button. How many companies are there? Since you want to display 10, therefore you write in here 10. All right, then click OK. And then there you go. Okay, company 1 up until company 10. Since it displays in row 1, therefore it will appear here, D1. So let's say, for example, you want to appear in D2. Yes, you can do that. Delete here again. Okay. And then open up your coding. Command button, adjust here. Since we want to stack at row number 2, therefore this one I plus 1. So let's try and play again. Deselect your design mode. Play your command button. How many companies are there? You want to display 10 companies name. Click OK, and there you go. Same row here. Okay, it starts at D2 and it starts also at D2. It ends at B11 and this one also ends at D11. So that's it. A lecture series regarding on your for next loop. Thank you everyone and bye-bye.